There was a china cabinet in a farmhouse outside Wapello, Iowa, and the family had already decided what it was worth. $10 a box. They had come back from the grocery store with banana boxes and were filling them off those shelves. I was there for the tools in the machine shed, but I watched a fellow I knew from other sales buy 3 of those boxes without once looking inside. Here is the part I never forgot. He carried the first box to the parking lot, set it on his tailgate, and pulled out one bowl. 8 inches across, heavy, cut all over in deep points. He turned it over and read the bottom, dragged his thumb across the cutting, then held it to the sun, and the side of his truck went to rainbows. That was the inspection, 10 seconds, in front of everybody. That bowl brought a little better than $2,000. The rest of those boxes was worth what he paid. He was not lucky. He knew 3 things nobody in that house knew. Today you get all 3. My name is Otis Granger. I am 64 and I have spent 40 years picking barns and estate auctions across the Midwest, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Nebraska, a good piece of Missouri. And I will say the awkward part up front, I am a barn and iron man. Cast iron, hand tools, rusty things with a stamp on them. I am not a glass man and will not pretend to be one. But here is why I get to talk about this. At every estate I have worked, the family argues over the tools in the shed while somebody quietly boxes the china cabinet for the thrift store. 40 years of that, and twice I have watched a dealer follow those boxes to the parking lot. I learned this the way I learn everything, by watching money change hands. 10 pieces of old glass counting down, every one in reach of you tonight. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world you are watching from. Iowa, Alabama, Scotland, does not matter. I read every single one. And stay through number 2, because families throw that one in the garbage on purpose. Subscribe if you are enjoying this. My wife got tired of the same stories and told me to write it down before it dies with me. She is generally right. She had heard the china cabinet one about 400 times. The Barn Find Bible. It is in the top comment right under this video, or just type barnfindbible.com. All right, back to it. Ground rules, because this is where these videos start lying to people. Crystal is not a value word, it is a recipe. It means somebody put lead in the batch so the glass would ring when you tap it, and brand new crystal does that and sells for $2 a stem. Most of what is in your cabinet is pressed glass worth a few dollars a piece. Not a few hundred, a few dollars. The point is not that your cabinet is a gold mine. It is that one piece might not be. Number 10 is the floor of this list, and it is most of what you own. Pressed glass poured into an iron form with the pattern already in it, so the piece came out looking cut without a cutting wheel ever touching it. Here is how you tell in 5 seconds. Run your thumb up the outside from base to rim. On pressed glass, you feel a vertical line running the whole height and another directly opposite. That is the mold seam where the 2 halves of the form met. Cut glass has no seam anywhere. Then put your thumb across the pattern. Pressed is rounded and soft. Real cutting is sharp enough you would not drag a knuckle across it. Seam plus soft edges means pressed, and pressed means $3 to $10 a piece. With the better old patterns, $20 to $40. That is no insult to your grandmother. She bought pretty glass. Number 9 is the Stemware set. Wedding crystal, the 8 or the 12 that came off a registry between the 1950s and the 80s and came out at Thanksgiving. Fostoria and the department store lines. Honest number first, because it is always first here. Most of those sets are $2 to $6 a stem. Everybody's mother had one and nobody's daughter wants one. Now the surprise. There is a whole business built on people who broke one glass out of a set they love and want it whole again. That buyer wants one stem and one discontinued pattern and will pay for it. A single goblet brings $30, $50, $75 by itself. It turns on naming the pattern, which is why there is a page in my own book that is nothing but pattern names and who made them. A family in Princeton, Illinois had a set of 12 priced at $15 for the box. Discontinued Fostoria, $440, one stem at a time. Number 8 is where the real money starts, and it has a name most people have never heard. The American Brilliant Period, 1876 to about 1917. For 40 years, this country cut the finest glass in the world by hand against stone wheels. Deep miter cuts and hob stars, so dense there is no plain glass left. You know one when you pick it up. Heavy beyond reason because the blanks were poured thick to give the cutter something to work into. Sharp on the points, and in the light it does not shine, it burns. What hides in estates is the bowl the family kept fruit in, the dresser jar of hairpins, the Christmas cookie tray. Honest numbers, common case first. Small dishes run $50 to $150. A clean 8-inch bowl with deep cutting is a $300 to $1,200 bowl, and I wrote that range in my notebook in '94. Signed, large and undamaged is where the thousands start. The top of the mountain is a punch bowl Libby cut for Tiffany and Company, reported at $66,000. That is a museum number, not your cabinet. I gave $4 for a dresser jar with a silver lid in Nashua, Iowa, because the lid was dented. $310. The money was in the glass. Number 7 crossed an ocean to get into your cabinet, and nobody in the house knows its name. Bohemian cut to clear. A goblet or decanter in deep ruby or cobalt with the color cut away in panels so clear glass shows through underneath. It is cased glass, a layer of color laid over clear while both were hot, then cut through by hand. The finest came from Bohemia, the Czech Republic now, from houses like Moser. Your test is the line where the color stops. On the real thing, that edge is crisp, and the colored layer has thickness to it like the edge of a sheet of paper. On the cheap ones, the color is a thin stain flashed on the outside. The line is fuzzy, and it has worn thin where hands held it. Honest numbers. Flash tourist pieces are $10 to $30. True cased and cut work starts near $150, and good examples run into the several hundreds. A signed Moser piece is 4-figure glass, and there is a line about that mark in my own book, underlined because I nearly walked past one, a cobalt decanter near Richland Center, Wisconsin, holding dish soap by the sink. $710. Number 6 is the one I have to talk you out of. The thick-pressed punch bowl with the cups hanging off it, the candy dish that weighs like a brick. The compote, the family agrees, must be valuable because look how heavy it is. Weight is not the tell. The factories in the 40s, 50s, and 60s poured mountains of heavy molded glass on purpose because heavy felt expensive to the woman buying it. Same goes for the ring. It says there is lead in the glass. It does not say the piece is old or cut by hand or worth $1 over new. A full punch bowl set with a dozen cups, and the ladle is a $30 to $75 set. The heavy candy dish is $5. There is a note in my own book from the year I quit hauling them that says, "Stop buying punch bowls," in capital letters. Hold on before the top 5 because everything above this line runs on one skill. Turn the piece over. There is a clock hidden in the words on the base and nobody reads it. If no country is named at all, you have something either American-made or made before about 1891, when imports were first required to name where they came from. If it names a country and nothing else, just France, just England, you are most likely between the 1890s and the First World War. And if it says the words "made in" spelled out, you are after about 1921. That is not a guess. That is a law with a date on it sitting on the bottom of your bowl. While you are down there, run a fingertip across the mark. If you feel a scratch or a filed groove cut through the maker's name, that piece left the factory as a second and said so itself. It is worth less no matter how perfect it looks. That page in my notes is one I still go back to. Then 3 tests, all of them standing at the cabinet. The ping, Hook a finger under the rim so the glass is not muffled against your palm, and flick the rim with a fingernail. Lead crystal rings and holds the note, hanging in the air a second like a little bell. Plain glass thunks, and it is gone. That tells you what the piece is made of, not what it is worth. The rainbow. Take it to a window in daylight. Hand-cut crystal throws hard, sharp rainbows onto the wall and onto your hand because a deep cut is a prism. Molded glass just glows, soft and milky, and throws nothing. The thumb. Drag your thumb sideways across the cut lines, not along them. Real cutting has edges, and every line catches. Crisp, almost unfriendly. Molded pattern feels rounded and pleasant. Pleasant is a bad sign. Words on the base, ping, rainbow, thumb. 10 seconds. Now, number 5. Number 5 is a name even people who do not care about glass have heard. Baccarat, a French house going back to the 1700s, one of the few names in glass that carries the weight Griswold does in cast iron. Here is the trap. You turn a fine French piece over, find nothing, and decide it is a fake. Not so fast. Baccarat did not acid stamp most of its glass until the 1930s. Before that, a piece wore a paper label, and a label lives until the first time somebody washes it. No mark is not the same as no value. When the mark is there, know where it hides, a small frosted circle with a decanter and 2 glasses in it, and not always in the middle of the base. Check the outer edge of the foot and the side of a stem. Breathe on the base like you are fogging a mirror and a frosted mark will rise out of it. A single modern Baccarat stem is a $40 to $150 glass. Retired patterns run higher, and the vases and bowls are where the French money sits. My own notes put a signed vase in the several hundreds and up. I found one in Tecumseh, Nebraska in a box marked kitchen. Number 4 is the piece with no name on it that is worth more than everything around it. Best American houses often did not sign their work, and when they did, they signed so faintly you can hold the piece in good light and swear there is nothing there. Christian Dorflinger cut glass in White Mills, Pennsylvania for the White House and marked almost none of it. Hawks and Sinclair out of Corning and Libby out of Toledo used an acid signature smaller than a grain of rice. So here is the hunt. Take the piece to a window and turn it upside down. Look at the polished spot in the middle of the base and in the bottom of the cut hollows. Then tilt it slowly. An acid mark is a frosted ghost that vanishes head on and appears at an angle. And if there is nothing there, judge the glass instead. The great houses cut their own blanks, so the metal is unusually clear and bright with no gray or green in it, and the cuts are knife sharp. Clear, heavy, and sharp with no name is a signature written in the glass. A woman in Albia, Iowa asked me to look at a bowl already out on the rummage table. I got it in the window at an angle, and there in the base was a mark you could cover with a grain of corn. $1,280 through a specialist glass sale, and there is a page in my own book that is nothing but where these houses hid their marks. Number 3 is a warning wearing a treasurer's clothes. Because those names carry money, people fake them, and it takes a minute with a rotary tool to put one on a piece of glass. The tell is your fingernail. A genuine acid signature is smooth, because the acid only frosted the surface, so your nail glides across it. A fake mark was scratched in afterward, and your nail catches every time. Feel the mark. Do not just read it. Then look at the cutting, because that is the real proof and the signature never was. Old cutting was a man leaning glass against a spinning stone wheel, crisp and deep and slightly irregular, and 2 stars on the same bowl are not identical twins. Modern imitation cutting on a diamond wheel is dead uniform, and a rim that has been ground and buffed smooth goes soft in the cut lines nearby. Then the married pieces, a punch bowl on a base that did not start life with it, a decanter wearing somebody else's stopper. Dealers make sets, and a marriage drags a price down hard. Check that both halves carry the same cutting and the same wear. A signature is never the proof. The cutting is the proof. I keep a list of the fakes in the back of my own book, And a fellow in Aledo, Illinois once showed me a famous name my fingernail caught on like a cattle guard. Number 2 is not a piece of glass at all. It is everything around the glass, and families throw it out on purpose because it looks like clutter. Start with the decanter stopper. A decanter missing its stopper is worth a fraction of what it would bring whole, and one wearing a stopper off something else is not the same object. On good decanters, the stopper was ground to fit that one neck and no other, and the workman scratched a matching number into the stopper and onto the neck. Pull it and hunt for the same number. Same everywhere else. A punch bowl and its stand should share the same cutting and the same wear ring underneath. A jar with its original lid is worth multiples of one with the lid broken. And do not let anybody weigh a silver rim for scrap, because cut glass mounted in sterling is what collectors chase. Then the box, the paper label still stuck to the base, the card that came with it. Those go in the trash first, every time, and that label may be the only mark the piece ever had. And if the inside of an old vase is cloudy where water stood for 30 years, dealers call that sick glass, and it does not clean out. I gave $2 for a decanter in Trenton, Missouri, because the stopper was in a drawer across the room. I found it, the numbers matched, and my own notes had that pattern at 300. It brought 360. Number 1 is almost certainly in your house or your mother's house right now, and you have walked past it 1,000 times. Waterford, Irish crystal, deep diamond and wedge cutting, heavy in the hand. The Lismore pattern, drawn by a Czech craftsman named Miroslav Havel in 1952, is the best-selling crystal pattern ever made and is now so familiar it has gone invisible. Now the honest part, and it will sting. Ordinary Waterford is not a fortune. A Lismore wine glass that cost $80 or $90 new resells for $10 to $30, and Marquis, made outside Ireland since the 90s, brings less. Fame is not value. What the whole world already owns is the thing nobody has to go buy. So why is it number 1? Because it is the disguise. The valuable pieces look like the cheap ones to anybody who has not learned the tells. Here is where the Waterford money lives. Older Irish-made pieces, dated off the base, a paper label before the 50s, an acid script mark from the 50s on, that seahorse only in the 1990s. I copied that dating line into my notes off a collector years ago and have never had to change it. Retired patterns rather than Lismore, large forms colored cut to clear complete and undamaged. And on that same shelf sits the piece we met at number 8, the early American Brilliant showpiece, which has no name printed on it and just looks like Grandma's heavy old bowl. The best one I ever put my hands on came out of the bottom of a cabinet in Viroqua, Wisconsin. 12-inch bowl, cut so deep the points would nearly draw blood, and a hawk's mark in the base I only found because I got it in the window and tilted it. $4,300 through a specialist glass sale, out of the same house where the heavy punch bowl everybody was excited about was a $40 punch bowl. 2 honest notes. Condition decides more here than in anything else I handle, so run a fingertip around every rim and every point and find the chip your eye cannot. And do not clean it before you know what it is. Never put old cut glass in a dishwasher because the heat and the detergent haze the surface permanently. I am a picker. I do not put a price on somebody's glass sight unseen because I would be guessing and you would be the one who paid for it. If you find a real mark tonight, take it to a glass collectors society or an auction house that runs specialist glass sales. Here is the whole thing in one line. The china cabinet holds the money precisely because everybody walks past it. The tools get argued over, the furniture gets divided, and the glass goes out the door in banana boxes at $10 a box, while a fellow with a hand truck waits in the parking lot. All he knows that you do not is a thumb and a window. So tonight, go stand in front of that cabinet, take out every heavy piece, turn it over and read the words on the bottom. Drag your thumb across the cuts, flick the rim and listen for whether the note hangs. Hold it to the light and see if it throws a rainbow. Then come tell me in the comments whose cabinet it was. your grandmother's, your mother's, the one that came with the house. Tell me whose it was and where in the world you are watching from. I read every single one,